I replayed Fields of Mistria just to feel something again. And somehow, within the first few days of my new playthrough, I managed to eat a very important quest item. This is the story of Faye and her first spring in Mistria. Meet Faye. She's always been a bit of a mess. Not because she didn't try, but because life never quite clicked the way she hoped it would. Making friends was hard. Finding love, even harder. She worked a job that barely paid the bills, and told herself that stability was enough. Until one day, she realized she wasn't excited about the future anymore. So when she came across this unusual offer, she didn't hesitate. The village of Mistria, recently damaged by an earthquake, was looking for someone to help with its restoration. In return, they were offering a homestead. She took this opportunity without a second thought. After all, how else was she supposed to get a house in this economy? At the time, Faye believed this would be a quiet new beginning. She was only half right. On her way to Mistria, Faye met a mysterious traveling merchant named Baylor, who offered to lead her to her new home. With no better option, she followed him. Following a stranger, very responsible on Faye's part. Miss Grove Farm was overgrown and neglected, but undeniably beautiful. There, she met Island and his sister Adeline, the children of Mistress Baron and Baroness. They were incredibly enthusiastic about her arrival. Faye felt a little out of her element, but for the first time in a long while, it seemed like her life might finally turn around. Her first full day in Mistria began with an almost fatal encounter involving a horse. Faye's neighbors, Celine and Hayden, stopped by to welcome her and brought seeds and tools to help her get started. Later, Faye met with Adeline, who explained Faye's role in restoring the town's renown, which had declined after the earthquake. To raise it, Faye would need to help the townsfolk by fulfilling requests. The first task was simple enough: introduce herself to the villagers, socialize. This was not mentioned in the job description. Most villagers left a good impression on Faye. Others were memorable, like a pan-obsessed man named Holt, or a bathhouse witch called Juniper, who implied Faye smelled, or blacksmith March, who wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. After a long day of introductions and exploring Mistria, Faye went to bed exhausted, but hopeful. The next morning, Faye was woken up by strange noises coming from outside. Still half asleep, she stepped out of the house and found Island struggling to chop down a tree. According to him, it was blocking something important, a statue to be precise. Hidden behind the tree was a stone dragon, watching silently over Mistria. Island seemed delighted by this discovery, Faye slightly less so. Still, as compensation for her lost sleep, she was handed an axe and welcomed into the historical society. The rest of the day passed in a blur. A visit to the museum, a stop at the smithy, where Faye went to see Ulrich, only for his brother March to make this whole interaction about himself. Somewhere between running errands and constantly fighting with her limited pocket space, Faye managed to craft her very first chest. A small but deeply satisfying win. This entire struggle could have been avoided if Faye had remembered there was already a chest in her cottage, but let her have this win. That night, Faye dreamed of the dragon statue she had seen that morning. It spoke to her. The dragon introduced himself as Caldarus, a guardian of Mistria. His memory was fractured, but one thing was certain. To help him recover, Faye would need to gather magical essence and offer it at his shrine. The dragon did not accept no as an answer. Before the dream faded, Caldarus made it clear that their fates were now bound together, whether she liked it or not. On day 3, Faye attended a meeting about repairing the bridge damaged during the earthquake. Without it, Mistress trade had all but stalled. It quickly became clear that while there were plenty of helping hands, there weren't nearly enough materials. Faye, with some reluctance, offered to gather the stone and wood they needed. She was determined to finish the job by Friday, so the Saturday market could open again. By evening, only a few stones were missing. Day 4 began on a hopeful note, mostly because it was raining. With the weather doing some of the work for her, Faye took the chance to finish gathering the remaining stone needed for the bridge. Before handing everything in, she stopped by Caldarus' shrine and he gave her some pro-gamer tips. Once the materials were donated, Adeline wasted no time. Rain or not, everyone got to work. Before long, the bridge stood repaired. and Mistria could finally look forward to welcoming traveling vendors again. With her first big task finished, Faye spent the rest of the day wandering around town, catching bags, and gathering resources. Day 5 started with an introvert's nightmare. Reina invited Faye to a Friday night gathering at the inn, and the rest of the villagers made sure she didn't forget, reminding her at every possible opportunity. During the day, Faye worked through a handful of requests, including one from Juniper. After tracking down a lilac for her, Faye was tricked into drinking a so-called health tonic. It absolutely destroyed her. At least the buff was free. Later, she bought some seeds, planted them, and changed into more appropriate clothes before heading to the inn. The place was already buzzing when she arrived. Villagers mingled, cards were being played, and someone had even started a game of D&D. Faye must have shown up a little too late, because the only group she could join was a bunch of kids planning a heist on Baylor's room. March also made an effort to be friendly, a truly unexpected development. Then again, Faye being out on a Friday night was unexpected too. On the morning of day 6, Faye visited her first Saturday market in Mistria. She didn't buy anything, because she was broke and saving every coin for a bigger backpack, but she did introduce herself to the vendors. After the market, Faye met Adeline at the manor. The village's food reserves were still running low, and Adeline asked for her help restocking them, handing Faye a few potato seeds to get her started. Later that day, Faye spoke with Island and Errol about the mines, which had been closed since the earthquake. Reopening them would require Mistria to reach the Stone Town rank. At that time, the village was still stuck at wood, but thanks to all the work Faye had put in over the past few days, Mistria reached stone that very night. The mines reopened the next day. Faye could finally venture underground and see what lay beneath Mistria. Though this wasn't entirely her idea, Caldarus had made his expectations clear. Faye wasn't convinced she was suited for mining, but fighting monsters turned out to be strangely therapeutic. During her expedition, she did something dumb that didn't feel like a big deal at the time. She ate an upper mines mushroom. She needed the stamina to keep going, but this would come back to haunt her. She pushed her way down to the 5th floor and activated the elevator, marking her first real progress underground. Sadly, she didn't make it home in time and passed out right outside the mine entrance. Juniper's health tonic from the other day seemed to have lingering effects. That night, Faye dreamed again. But this time, it wasn't an immortal dragon who appeared. A cat-like figure took his place. Because Faye had fainted outside the day before, she slept in and didn't wake up until 10. When she finally stepped outside, she was greeted by a cat, the very same one she had seen in her dream. His name was Loaf. He was adorable. And before Faye could fully process what was happening, he had already decided her house was now his house, the cat distribution system at its finest. After tending to her crops, Faye took care of a request posted by March. He seemed genuinely surprised that she had agreed to help him. As usual, he was quite rude about it, but thanks to Adeline, who happened to pass by at just the right moment, Faye walked away with a free blacksmithing lesson and a copper bar. She also finally treated herself to a bigger backpack, ending her ongoing battle with limited pocket space. The rest of the afternoon was spent in the mines. Again, while she didn't make any major breakthroughs, she gathered enough ore to forge a copper pickaxe. All things considered, it was a productive day. Faye spent most of day 9 in the mines and finally reached level 10. But the moment she set foot on the 10th floor, a faint whisper echoed through the stone. That was enough mining for one day. On her way home, Faye stopped by the museum to donate some of her finds. Then, she crafted a copper fishing rod and immediately put it to good use. That night, Caldarus visited her dreams once again and granted her a spell to restore her stamina and health. Instead of responding with gratitude, Faye chose to mock the name of the spell. Let's hope ancient dragons are patient with mortals. On day 10, Faye decided to give the mines a break. Instead, she spent the day catching bugs, fishing, and learning a bit more about crafting with Riz. She also bought and planted new seeds, determined to be a farmer in more than just name. She even placed a stone bench near Caldarus' shrine, a small peace offering after the previous night. Let's hope ancient dragons have a taste for stone furniture. By day 11, Faye felt obligated to return to the mines, mainly for Caldarus's sake. After all, it seemed like the least she could do after being such a brazen mortal. Her efforts paid off. She made it to level 20, where she heard that strange voice from before. It guided her into a chamber. There, a mysterious tablet stood before a sealed stone door, its surface carved with symbols she could not understand. Fortunately, Faye knew exactly who might be able to help. Island, the local archaeologist. But that would have to wait. She collapsed in the very chamber she had just uncovered. At this point, setting up a bed in the mines might have been more practical than keeping one in her cottage. Thanks to the previous night's escapades in the mines, Faye slept in once again. After harvesting her crops, she headed to the museum to donate her latest finds. Completing a collection earned her a cute farmer outfit, which she tried on immediately. At least now she looked the part, even if she felt far more like a miner than a farmer. Later that day, she finally smelted some copper ore and crafted herself a proper copper sword, long overdue. Then, she went to tell Island about the strange tablet she had found in the mines. As expected, he was thrilled. Island identified that the inscription was written in witch speak, an ancient language once used by dragons and humans, but translating it was beyond him. Together, they turned to Juniper for help. Juniper obliged, and with her assistance, the message was finally deciphered. To break the seal, Faye would need to offer 4 specific items: a ruby, a stone loach, a lantern moth, and an upper mines mushroom. Faye ended the day at the inn, where she once again found herself unwillingly involved in the kids' ongoing plans to break into Baylor's room. Saturday brought the market, and Faye made her usual rounds to greet the vendors. She also let Adeline know she had shipped 10 crops, successfully refilling Mistress' reserves. As a reward, she received a handful of turnip seeds, a welcome reward, especially since money had been a little tight. Later, she joined Josephine and Raina at the inn for a short cooking lesson, before heading back into the mines in search of the offerings needed to break the seal. The trip was underwhelming. She found only 2 of the required items and would need to venture deeper to track down a stone loach and an upper mines mushroom. The next few days blurred together. Faye learned about the upcoming spring festival from Celine and the strange flowers known as Breath of Spring, which bloomed only during this short period. They seemed to appear at random as Faye went about her day, and there was even a competition for whoever gathered the most. Even with the festival approaching, Faye found herself drawn back to the mines, still searching for the remaining offerings. The results were discouraging. No stone loach, no mushroom. The RNG gods were clearly not on her side. By day 16, her persistence finally paid off, at least partially. Faye managed to catch a stone loach, 1 offering down, 1 mushroom still standing between her and the seal. The spring festival finally arrived on day 17, which meant the mines would have to wait, at least for a few hours. After tending to her farm, Faye headed to the town plaza to join the celebrations. To her surprise, she had collected more Breath of Spring than anyone else. Her prize was a beautiful flower crown, which she put on immediately. She wandered through the festival stalls, eventually finding a dress that matched the crown perfectly, a complete spring outfit. Once the festivities went down, Faye returned to the mines, only to be denied that upper mines mushroom yet again. Still, the day wasn't a total loss. She crafted a copper watering can, which would at least make farming more pleasant. Day 18 unfolded much like the days before it. More time in the mines, and still no upper mines mushroom. On top of that, Faye's wallet was starting to look worryingly light. She planted more seeds in hopes of earning more money, then met with Adeline, who shared plans to restore the mill damaged in the earthquake. Repairing it would require Faye to donate 1,000 coins, 150 wood, 200 stone, and 2 copper ingots. It sounded manageable, certainly easier than finding the last offering. Day 19 went exactly as Faye expected. Back in the mines with nothing to show for it. That mushroom continued to elude her. If only she hadn't eaten one of them weeks ago, she wouldn't have this problem. A valuable lesson: don't eat things off the floor. In search of consolation, she went to the inn for the usual Friday gathering. What she found there was pure chaos. March was very drunk, and intent on winning her over, Juniper shattered a bottle of wine that was probably worth more than Faye's entire farm, and Ulrich won at cards for the third time in a row. At the very least, she was starting to get used to this crowd. Instead of chasing mushrooms yet again, Faye decided to focus on something more productive that Saturday. She spent the morning gathering wood, determined to finish repairing the mill. Once the materials were donated, everyone pitched in. Soon enough, the mill was fully repaired. With the mill restored, Faye could now build coops and barns, finally opening the door to raising animals. A small step forward as a farmer. Day 21 began quietly. Faye spent the morning at Hayden's, talking about raising animals. Later, she returned to the mines with very little hope left. She cleared one floor, nothing. Another, still nothing. And then, there it was, the upper mines mushroom. She grabbed it instantly and swore never to eat anything strange from the mines ever again. With the final offering secured, Faye descended once more to level 20. When she placed the items on the altars, the air shifted. The chamber felt unnaturally still. A ghostly figure emerged, a dragon priestess. She urged Faye to venture deeper, then vanished without another word. Faye tried. She truly did. But the challenge waiting below proved too much. Out of breath and outmatched, she chose to retreat. Back at Misgrove Farm, Caldarus summoned her. He thanked her for breaking the seal and granted her a new spell, one that allowed her to summon rain. Fragments of his memory returned too. There were 5 seals in total, and she had broken only one. With the seal broken, Faye decided it was time to shift her focus back to the farm and the people who lived in Mistria. She built her first coop, preparing for chickens she could not yet afford. Still, her efforts did not go unnoticed. That night, Mistria reached the Copper Town rank. Day 23 arrived stormy and grey, but that didn't stop Adeline from putting everyone to work. With Mistria's more urgent repairs complete, the town could finally move on to beautification. A group of volunteers, they included, spent the day repairing streets and cleaning debris. They even restored a staircase leading up to the summit. The view from the top was lovely, despite the rain that refused to let up. Faye spent the remaining hours exploring and fishing, hoping to earn enough to finally afford a chicken. On day 24, Faye finally bought her first chicken. She chose a spotted little chick and named him Shane. She wasn't entirely sure why that name felt right, it simply did. The rest of the day was spent gathering resources, completing requests, and bothering Marge, just because she could. All in all, it was a productive day. Day 25 began with a passive-aggressive and oddly flirty message from Marge. He invited Faye over without much explanation. Against her better judgment, she went. What followed was painfully awkward. Marge projected his frustrations onto her, and Faye's responses only seemed to make things worse. He questioned her motives and accused her of having less than noble intentions. Some of what he said hit closer to home than she would have liked. To top it off, he handed her a hoe on her way out. The implications were unclear. Needing distance, Faye retreated to the mines. It turned out to be a decent distraction. She made it down to level 25. On day 26, Faye met with Adeline, who proposed yet another way to improve Mistria, upgrading the general store. The scale of it was intimidating. The repairs would require a mountain of materials and more coins than Faye felt entirely comfortable parting with. She wasn't sure she could collect everything before spring ended, but she was willing to try. She spent most of the day gathering wood, then stopped by the inn for the usual weekly gathering. Marge was drunk again, acting as though nothing had happened the day before, and the kids were grounded for trying to sneak into Baylor's room. And Faye got a second chicken that day. She named her Emily. Saturday brought the market once again. After making her usual rounds, Faye got straight back to work on the general store. She had her biggest harvest yet, which meant money would soon take care of itself. Time, however, would not. The rest of the day was spent chopping wood and gathering copper ore. It was solid progress, but with spring slipping away, whether it would be enough was another matter. The final day of spring arrived, and Faye did not exactly start it strong. After another late night in the mines, she slept in until 10. Still, she refused to give up. She chopped trees, smelted copper, counted and recounted her materials, and somehow it was enough. Before long, the entire town was hard at work. Hammers rang out for the square, and by the time the task settled, the general store stood fully upgraded, its shelves ready to serve everyone in Mistria. Imperfect as she was, she had shown up when it mattered. Even March would have to admit that. And so, Faye's first spring in Mistria came to an end. 4 seals remained, a farm to grow, a town to rebuild, friends to make, and summer waiting just beyond the horizon. Thank you so much for watching. If you stayed until the end, I truly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed following Faye's journey. If you'd like to see what summer brings, let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!